what's up, Bethel Youth? This is Pastor Pete with you for our third installment of the Heroes of the Faith Sunday Short. Now you might be thinking, Pastor Pete, why are you wearing a hat? Well, I'll tell you. It's because one of my heroes is a guy by the name of Indiana Jones. I don't know if you've ever seen the Indiana Jones movies. I know by now you're getting a little bit old, but I think Indiana Jones is a pretty awesome guy. He's a hero. And so he wears a hat like this. And so when I wear this hat, I feel adventurous. I feel like a hero. So I figured, hey, it just makes sense. But today, we're talking about another hero from the Christian faith. It's a man named Augustine. And before we start talking about Augustine, I want to read a passage for you. It's from Psalm 34, verses 4 through 8. It says, I sought the Lord, and he answered me, and delivered me from all my fears. Those who look to him are radiant, and their faces shall never be ashamed. This poor man cried, and the Lord heard him, and saved him out of all of his troubles. The angel of the Lord encamps around those who fear him, and delivers them. Oh, taste and see that the Lord is good. Blessed is the man who takes refuge in him. So I think that as we think about Augustine today, I think you're going to find that passage applies really well to his life, at least his life right as he begins his journey with Jesus. So who is Augustine? Well, Augustine was born in the city of Tagaste in the year 354 AD, right? So after Jesus. 354, that was a long time ago. And Tagaste is a city that's in modern day Algeria in North Africa. And Augustine's mom was named Monica, and she was a Christian. She was a really devout Christian. And his dad was named Patricius, and he worshiped the gods of the Romans, right? So he was living in a house where his mom was a Christian, his dad was not a Christian. It was a house divided, right? But for the first 30 years of his life, right, from when he was born until the time he was 30, Augustine ran away from his mom's faith. He ran away from Christianity. He didn't really want any part of it. He rebelled against it. But what did he do? What makes Augustine so special? Well, pretty much everything. So the wild part is that Augustine did so much. He did so much as far as writing and teaching and understanding the Bible that has shaped Christianity immensely over time. So here's a quote from a guy named Ryan Reeves. He says, "Certainly for all Western Christians, Augustine is an unrivaled figure in the history of Christian reflection. There's hardly a subject that is not shaped by his writings and ministry." That's pretty high praise. Augustine did a lot. He talked about a lot. He was at the center of a lot of debates, and ultimately he ended up coming out the one that the church kind of went with. So we can't possibly get through all the things that Augustine did and the reasons that he's important. We're just not even going to try, because that would take up hours and hours and hours. And we just don't have time for that. But we are going to focus on one moment in time from Augustine's life. It's the moment that he became a Christian. So one of the series of books that Augustine wrote is called Confessions. And the reason that we know so much about Augustine as compared to other people from that long ago who we don't know as much about is because Augustine wrote a lot. He wrote everything about his life, everything that he went through, all the things he was thinking at the time. And so one of his most famous books is Confessions. You see, like I said, for the first 30 years of his life, Augustine fought against the Christianity that his mom had prayed for so long that he would accept. And he tried to fill his life with things that he thought would satisfy him. So whether it was stealing things, he talks specifically about stealing pears from someone's tree, and just throwing them to the pigs. He said, I didn't even have any desire to eat it. I just want to steal it off the tree, throw it to the pigs just because I could, just because it felt good. Whether it was stealing, whether it was sex, or whether it was gaining knowledge, Augustine pursued it all. And he actually went on to become an amazing speaker. This idea of rhetoric was huge at the time that Augustine lived. We don't really talk much about rhetoric today, but back then it was a really, really big deal. Basically, it meant that he was an amazing speaker. He even traveled to Rome and then to Milan to be a professor in rhetoric. So by all standards, Augustine was really successful. He was brilliant, and he was well on his way to becoming someone of importance in this world. But as he got older, Augustine felt like something was missing. Even though he was brilliant, he couldn't seem to find answers to the big questions that he fought with for so much of his life. Questions like, why does evil exist? Right? And questions like, why is he so selfish? Right? He was wrestling with his own evil thoughts and actions, right? Like stealing the pears off the tree and just throwing them, even though they weren't his. He wrestled with these big questions. And so he took these questions to different people, to really wise, really smart people who believed all these different things. And he would ask them these questions, and every time he would do that, he would leave unsatisfied. He didn't feel like they gave really good answers or that it really made a lot of sense. Not even the wisest people could give him answers. And eventually, he came to the end of his rope, came to the end of himself. He was tired of it. And that's where God met him. So, we're going to read something from Confessions, right? From this really famous book that he wrote about his own life. We're just going to read a few sentences. So here is when Augustine is at the end of his rope. He's just sick and tired of not having the answers to his big questions. And he's just confused, and he's angry, he's sad. He says, "The streams of my eyes gushed out acceptable sacrifice to thee." He talks a little bit like with older language, right? He's from 354 AD. That's a long time ago. "And not indeed in these words, but to this effect I cried to thee. And thou, O Lord, how long, O Lord? Will you be angry forever? Oh, remember not against us our former iniquities. How long? Tomorrow? Why not now? Why not this very hour make an end to my uncleanness?" And this was Augustine just pouring out his heart to God, right? A God he didn't even know, a God he was trying to search for through all these different avenues, but couldn't find him. But then all of a sudden, in all this crying and this weeping, Augustine hears a voice of a little kid. And this little kid says, "Take it up and read it." Right? And so he had the Bible with him there. And he went to Romans 13, verses 13 and 14. And after he read that, he said, "I wanted to read no further, nor did I need to. For instantly, as the sentence ended, there was infused in my heart something like the light of full certainty, and all the gloom of doubt vanished away." Right? So why was it Romans 13 that seemed to stick out above the rest for Augustine? Why was it that? Why was it not John 3:16? Why was it not some other verse? I don't know. But for some reason in that moment, God broke in to Augustine's heart and his mind. And he changed it. He transformed his heart. And that's an amazing thing. And I think it ties in directly with Psalm 34, like I read from earlier. And in verse 8, it says, "Oh, taste and see that the Lord is good." Right? The reality is that Augustine had tasted a lot of different things, right? He had tried to learn for as many people as he could. He tried to gain knowledge. He tried to have all these experiences that he thought would satisfy him. But it wasn't until he tasted and saw that God was good, and through the power of his word, was he actually satisfied. And that's how it is with our own hearts. We can chase after all of these things. We can think that they're going to satisfy us, that what people think about us will satisfy us. That if we just get that sports record or we win first place, that we're going to be satisfied. If we just go to prom, we're going to be satisfied. Whatever it is, right? If we get 500 likes on our Instagram post, then we'll be satisfied. But the reality is, only God can satisfy our hearts. Only He can satisfy us. So that's what I want to leave you with today. With the truth that you can seek purpose and value anywhere and everywhere. And people all around you are seeking purpose and value. But it's all going to leave you with more questions and more doubt. I don't know what God's doing in your heart right now. I'd love to find out. But the reality is I know He's working. Just like He worked in Augustine's heart, even though Augustine couldn't see it, and he got so frustrated, God was there and He was working. Only Jesus satisfies your heart. Taste and see that He is good. Thanks for watching.